Hello everyone, hope you're all doing well. Thank you very much for tuning in here for another lovely day at the Aquarium project. Just quickly before we get started, this is going to apply to only the New Zealand listeners who watch this video as soon as it comes out. So if you're watching later on or you're from a different country, ignore. But if you're from New Zealand, go vote, it's important. I'm not saying who to vote for, just vote for whatever you believe. Because it's important. Go vote, come see the fish. Sounds like a fun day to me. But yeah, that's kind of my public service announcement. But aside from that, let's get into the fish topic today. So hopefully something that'll interest you no matter where in the world or what day you're watching this. Also, just quickly, what I'm going to do is I just set the camera up here and we're just going to watch this aquarium because I think that'll be kind of fun. Obviously, if you're listening on the podcast feed or all that, this is not going to be that valuable to you because there's no visuals. So just imagine we're looking at a fish tank and I'm talking over it. But basically what I wanted to talk about is kind of like aquarium burnout, or how I enjoy having multiple aquariums, how I go about it, all that kind of thing. So I think it would be a lie to say that everyone's always vibing with every aquarium. For example, this one here, the cherry bulb one, I go through phases. Like sometimes I'm completely obsessed with it. Sometimes I still like it, but like I kind of just go through the motions with it. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Might be more into my Tangyikins or my monster fish or, my Oscar or, breeding something. Like anyone who says that they're always completely infatuated with every aquarium they have is completely lying. There is certainly you go through phases, and I think what we don't talk about is that's okay. If you have one aquarium, or if you have 5 aquariums, or if you have 55 aquariums, or, whatever, it doesn't really make too much difference. So long as you're enjoying them, that's the main thing. And really for me, it does go through waves. So I'll kind of just like go through phases of like, oh yeah, I really love this one. I'm always looking at it. I stand in front of it and have my coffee. I'm tinkering around with the plants, tinkering with the fish, trying different foods, trying different plants, all this kind of thing. And then sometimes it's just like feeding, doing water changes, not really enjoying it so much. And I use enjoying in a specific way here. I'm not talking about like liking. I mean like taking it in and admiring and absorbing, if that makes sense. So I think that is something really important. And what I really wanted to talk about is that's okay. It is okay if you're not the world's most obsessed person with this fish tank for 6 months and you kind of just go through the motions and it's kind of just there because you're focusing on this new breeding project that you're doing down the other end of the house, or even, you got other things to do. You're playing PlayStation, or, you're watching sports, or doing something in particular with your friends, or like getting into a different hobby, like you're getting really into cooking or whatever. Like, that's fine. And you don't need to feel stressed about it. I find a lot of people seem to find like, if they're not absolutely infatuated with it, it's like, oh, okay, I need to strip back the tank and start again. And of course, if you want to do that, that's fine. That's your choice. Like, you can do whatever you want. But you don't need to. You don't have to be obsessed with it. And I do think that is kind of the key to this whole debate or question. Like, it's okay just to have an aquarium and to like it and enjoy it. But, you don't need to have your hands in there every day. You don't need to be buying new stuff for it every day. You can just kind of let them do what they're going to do and let them do their thing and not really worry about it. And, maybe in, say, 3 months, for example, you've discovered this new type of plant and you're like, this is the coolest thing in the world. I have to have it. I think it'll look so cool in my plant, in my aquarium rather. And that'll spark that kind of enjoyment or excitement again. And that is perfectly fine. At the end of the day, you're just fish keeping for you, and that's the important part. Like, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. You don't have to, have the coolest show tank on the internet. You just have to have a fish tank that you like, that you enjoy, and that does what you want it to do. And if what you want it to do is just to, do its own thing, that's okay. But in saying that, so maybe you do want it to be really exciting or something you're always obsessed with. So how can we kind of deal with this problem? Well, There's a few ways. I think having multiple aquariums is a good idea. I know this sounds like multiple tank syndrome excuses or something, but it does help. You can have different aquariums, and having them be different aquariums is really going to help. So, like for example, having one like kind of high tech planted aquascape, one African cichlid aquarium, one goldfish aquarium, one axolotl, something like that. We've got a few different things, like one tank, oh yeah, playing around with plants. One tank, oh yeah, we can play around with like feeding different creepy crawlies and then bugs and all that. One tank we can, just interact with more, like having that variety instead of having like five aquascapes that's all basically the same, but a different take on the same thing. Is kind of, I think that's going to be really helpful for you, so you can kind of bounce off them all. Like I find that happens with me a lot. Like I'll be just always thinking about, for example, my Mbuna tank for a bit, and then I'll be like, oh man, these Oscars are so much fun, and then I'll be like, oh, these plants, I'm really enjoying these plants at the moment, and kind of being able to flip between them, I find really does help. But I mean, in general, just being okay with just your hobby being how you want your hobby to be is so important. Like you can kind of just let go with the flow, do whatever you want to do, and that's fine. If you're not obsessed with your tank for a few weeks, that's fine. Some other things you could try as well is just try some new stuff, like some different stuff maybe. So, for example, say this aquarium we're looking at, like you have a planted community aquarium. Say that's your aquarium. Well, what you could do is like maybe you could try some different foods, some new food you haven't tried, some live food or some different kinds of treat type food that you've not tried before. Maybe you could try that. Maybe you could see if you can dig out a new plant. Like maybe if this one was your tank, maybe it's like, oh, maybe I'll play around with some crypts, see if I like looking at the crypts. Fiddle around with like new fertilizers or some vitamins to mix in with your fish. Like different things like that you haven't tried before is always a good idea. Like people always say like, oh, you kind of, I've been around the hobby for a while, I've seen everything, and that's never true. Like there's people, like I know plenty of people who are like been keeping fish for much longer than I've been alive. Every day they still learn something new about the hobby. Maybe it's a new food that you didn't even know had gotten invented. Different fish have got different things discovered about them. Maybe there's new plants introduced to the hobby, like things like that. There's always new stuff. Maybe it's new technology, whatever. But yeah, I really don't want it to sound like I'm trying to say like, oh, just spend money and it'll be fine. Because there's other things you could try that you haven't tried. Maybe you want to try some photography or videography of your aquarium. Like try capture some sort of like, maybe for example, you've got cherry barbs that spar with each other. Maybe you want to catch that on film. Maybe you want to, document the growth of a particular plant. You could start that on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or something like that, just uploading pictures or even just talking to other hobbyists can sometimes be enough. Like they'll share a different perspective on your aquarium or on a particular plant or something, and that can be enough. But yeah, I mean the general kind of, I guess, thesis of this video is it's okay, and you don't need to worry if your, I guess, obsession wanes or calms down for a bit, because for whatever reason you're focusing on a different aquarium, focusing on a different part of your life, or you're just tired and you just want to have a rest. That's completely fine, and I don't want anyone to stress about it, because we all go through it. I mean, I have times where I'm like, oh yeah, I don't care about this aquarium. Like, of course you want to still make sure you're keeping up with your maintenance and that, but maybe it's like, yeah, I just don't look at it as much for a couple of weeks, and then I'll come back and look at it and like, oh, this plant's so much bigger than I remember it being, or this fish is spawning now that it wasn't spawning beforehand, or oh, the way they feed is so interesting to me with this particular food or something. So you can really kind of play around with that, and just don't worry about it. You'll be right. You don't need to kind of justify being obsessed. Like if you're not obsessed for a few weeks, a few months, even a few years, don't worry about it. It doesn't have to come back. Even if you don't like the hobby, don't keep fish. Like if you decide, oh yeah, this isn't for me, it's just a chore, I don't care, and for a long time, like I wouldn't do it if it's like, oh yeah, for a week I'm like, oh, I don't like fish, and get rid of them all. But if you just find you've fallen out of love, that's okay too. I mean, doing what you think is best is always the best idea. So yeah, that's kind of what I had to say, but I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. A few people dropped some interesting video ideas on the last video, so I'll be checking that out. But yeah, aside from that, thank you guys all very much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, please make sure to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And yeah, we'll catch you in the next one. Bye.